A few years ago, I read Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I was absolutely blown away from a story about tennis. But it's so much more than that. Carrie Soto is Back is actually the inspiring and incredible story of a woman reclaiming her legacy. She was a pro tennis champion, left the sport for a while, and then decides to come back. And as you can tell by the title, Carrie Soto is that woman, and this book is all about her journey and that story. Now, before you get all worried, you really don't need to be a tennis pro or know anything about tennis really going into this. I surely didn't know that much about the sport, and then I fell in love with it because of this book and got very invested in the sport. And if that doesn't happen to you, that's okay. It's still an incredible book. The characters, specifically Carrie, is so well fleshed out. You adore her, you hate her because she makes some decisions which make you question how good of a person she is, but you also understand because her whole life has been fueled by ambition and the desire to be the absolute best. So you need to obviously make some tough choices when you're in that position. She also has a very interesting relationship with her father because he has also been her coach for a majority of her career, and that can get really sticky. And then she kind of feels like she doesn't necessarily have a safe space with her father to go to because it has to be tennis first, at least in her mind, that is. And throughout the book, you're reading about Carrie navigating her return, how the media is reacting. There were some really cool chapters where you were actually reading from news outlets, so it wasn't in her point of view or third person, it was reading what the media was saying about her, and then it would flip back to another chapter and we'd return to her story and her point of view. This book also sends a really inspiring message about female friendships, and specifically in the world of sport, and I think more so fame. Things can get really competitive, and jealousy and comparing ourselves to different women come out a lot. Obviously, I'm not in the pro leagues of sport. I'm not playing at any Australian Open, but you can still relate to that feeling that women have always been pinned against each other in society, and it really doesn't make sense. I don't understand why that happens, but it's so easy to fall into that trap, and you do read about that in this book, and also how maybe at some point Carrie tries to break out of that trap, and it is such a beautiful ending. I will say, there is a match at the end of this book, and it felt like I was on the edge of my seat on the TV or in a tennis match watching two great champions compete. But instead you were just flipping paper, which is so funny to think of, but that is how well written it is. That is how incredibly immersive this book is. You really feel like you are watching a tennis match the whole time. Also, how all of tennis is a back and forth. It's like a relationship between one player and the other. That's very much how this book felt. Everything was calculated and would ping pong. The dialogue was very direct, which I loved. Carrie would say something, the other character, and they would go back and forth rather than these long monologues. So it was really entertaining, and you could just flip through and want to keep reading for hours and hours on end until you reach the end of the book. And as a woman in her 20s, this was incredibly inspiring to just read about a woman navigating the media, romantic relationships, platonic relationships, familial relationships, and all of the headache that comes along with being a woman and being successful and returning to something that you once left. It was so beautiful, so emotional, and so inspiring, and I just can't recommend it enough.